Back when Eisenhower was the president, golf courses is where most of his time was spent. So I never really listened to what the president said, because in general I believed that the general was politically dead. But he always seemed to know when the muscles were about to be flexed. Because I remember him saying something, mumbling something about a military-industrial complex.
As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. I have tried to offer them my deepest compassion while maintaining my conviction that social change comes most meaningfully through nonviolent action. But they asked, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They asked if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problem, bring about the changes it wanted. Their questions hit home, and I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed and the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. For the sake of those boys, for the sake of this government, for the sake of the hundreds of thousands trembling under our violence, I cannot be silent.
Each one.
I cannot be silent.
Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Everyone must play a part. Everyone's got to go to work. Work for peace. Spirit say work.
I cannot be silent.
Empowering the body, mind, and spirit. This is We Cannot Be Silent with Phil Restino and Larry Pinkney.
Alrighty, I'm sorry I had to do such a long lead in there, but I had to throw a rope to our host for this next segment, Phil Restino. I'm not sure what was wrong, but technology is a marvelous thing when it works as advertised, and of course when you're under time pressure trying to wire something together, it just never seems to work as advertised. But at this time, I would like to introduce Phil Restino, Larry Pinkney, and Jeff Bielman, who are going to give us our next presentation. And gentlemen, at this point, it's all yours. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Gary, and thanks for throwing me that rope. I could have heard you guys very well on the headset, but I guess the mic wasn't working. I probably pressed the wrong button. But thank God for the telephone, and thank God for UnitedWeStrike.com. Here we are on Saturday, September 14th. It's the second Saturday of the month, and when we have that, it's the UnitedWeStrike.com marathon, which includes radio programs from all over the world. And I want to welcome everybody to this edition of We Cannot Be Silent with Phil Restino and Larry Pinkney. This is the abbreviated half-hour edition on UnitedWeStrike.com. And please always remember, don't buy, don't comply, ask why. And on the 15th of every month, we ask you all to just check out from the system. Give it a break. But tonight, we have a guest on our half-hour program, a fellow that I've known for years here in the Central Florida area. His name is Jeffrey Bielman. But before we get to Jeff, we do want to check in with our co-host, Larry. Larry Pinkney is editorial board member and columnist with both the Black Commentator and IntrepidReport.com. And Larry puts out a weekly column for each publication. And Larry, are you there?
Of course, I'm here. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Good to hear your voice.
You too, Larry. What we usually try to do is bring Larry in and give us a little heads up on what his columns are dealing with this week, and then we try to direct you over to those websites where you can get the article in full length. So why don't we cover that first, Larry? You want to tell us what you've been writing about lately?
Well, my latest column from the blackcommentator.com, that's www.blackcommentator.com, is entitled Obama's Syria War Plans and his slimy, quote, progressive, unquote, minions or supporters. Actually, I would urge people to Google it and check it out for yourself. It's been picked up. But I don't want to take up a lot of time on this. We have a wonderful guest. Let's go straight to our guest, and let's let him talk and tell us a bit about what he's been doing. You know, this struggle is about everyday, ordinary people. Black, white, brown, red, and yellow people. Everyday, ordinary people. So let's go to our fantastic guest that we have this evening. And I want to thank our listening audience. I want to thank United We Strike. Let's move on. All power to the people. Let's move on, Phil. Right back at you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Larry. And again, folks listening that want to get a look at Larry's work, complete body of work there is at www.blackactivistwg.org. But as you mentioned, tonight we have a guest, and his name is Jeff Beetleman, and Jeff has taken charge of the Orlando chapter of We Are Change. And the thing about the wearechange.org chapters all over the country and the world are they really are nonpartisan and focus on the issues and welcome people with open arms. And I think they're a great model to replicate and try to copy. But Jeff is here from Orlando, and we want to introduce Jeff, and maybe he can tell us a little bit about himself and how he got involved. Jeff, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
I can hear
you. Welcome, Jeff.
Great. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for the intro. My name is Jeffrey Beitelman, it's actually pronounced.
Oh.
And I've been a member of We Are Change on and off now for about 4 or 5 years. And recently, there was a bit of a vacuum here in Orlando, and I stepped up to go ahead and run the organization with the help of Phil Restino, who actually put up the funds to actually get this thing going again. And basically, we're a nonpartisan, independent media organization comprised of individuals and groups working to expose corruption. And so I consider myself to be a bit of a freedom fighter and somebody who wants to eradicate corruption worldwide. And the organization is worldwide. It's not just here in the United States.
That's true. And in order to find chapters, the listeners can find a chapter in their own area, they should go to wearechange.org, and that's the main website. And from there you can find contact information for chapters near yourself. Also, you can use the startpage.com web search, internet search, and type in We Are Change and perhaps the name of your state or city and see what comes up that way as well. The one for Orlando, Jeff, is www.meetup.com/We Are Change-Orlando. And I like what you've been doing with the web page there. And there's photographs of some of the past actions we've done already. And we want to give recognition to Chris Cirillo, who had the chapter for a couple years and did a wonderful job. and he had to leave for other reasons. And we're really thankful, Jeff, here in Central Florida, that you picked up the slack and stepped up to take the leadership role. Do you want to tell us about some of the actions that you've already been doing?
Sure. Recently we had a meetup down on Lake Eola, and we were handing out information, in particular the Architects and Engineers DVDs, which exposed the lies of 9/11 based on the Architects and Engineers. There's over 2,000 of them now that have signed the petition for a redress of grievances from the government, asking really hard questions. And I think that's what We Are Change is really all about, is asking really hard questions and being empirical observers of the political system that we're currently living in.
And Jeff, let me say this to you right now. Let me interject, if I may. What prompted you? I think you've actually touched on it, but what prompted you to take up this very, very important mantle?
Well, essentially, my experience with September 11th started on 9/11. My father was a project manager for major corporations, like ExxonMobil and Schwerdrup. And he told me on 9/11 what he thought had really happened, and I just simply couldn't believe it. I engaged in what was called cognitive dissonance, where I simply sided with the government because it seemed to be more convenient for me. But it seemed to be the next day when I went to work. I was working in a structural engineering company in Oviedo, Florida, and both the CEO and his partner, who were both structural engineers, PEs, both told me that it was a controlled demolition, and I still was in denial and just could not come to believe that my country would do something so awful to its citizens. And it wasn't until I moved to Gainesville, Florida, where I went to school at the Rinker School of Building Construction, that I found a professor named Doc Rinker, and he was our building construction materials professor. And on the second day of class, he indicated to us that he believed that there was no way that the impact of the jets and the subsequent fires could cause the World Trade Center to collapse as it had. And I remember being really upset and going home and washing my brain with a bunch of History Channel propaganda. But it was only until a little bit later that I went to download off the internet United 93, which is a film about the plane that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But rather than getting the Hollywood version of the film, somebody had craftily renamed Loose Change to United 93. So that's what really started this whole thing for me. And I remember watching the film, being somebody who was kind of on the lie hop side, the let it happen on purpose. I quickly did a lot of research, being somebody who became a history major, and quickly learned what was going on in my country.
Wow.
Boy, that and once you wake up to 9/11, you can't go back, and then you start to see. It's like a pair of glasses, You start to see it, the deception, the lies, the conspiracy, and look up the word conspiracy. That's when two or more people get together in secret to cheat others, man, and that's what these people are doing, and that was really clever, Jeff, on the part of the fella who renamed the video. And that's a lot of what We Are Change and a lot of the activists here on UnitedWeStrike.com, the activists here on this network cover all kinds of topics.
Hey guys, I hate to butt in. Usually, I sit back and I just listen for my cues and keep my mouth shut because it's your time and I really shouldn't be stealing it from you. But I've got to ask Jeff. Jeff, many years ago, when I had, by the way, I'm Gary. I'm your producer, just outside of Washington D.C. I had long hair and a ponytail, and I saw the war in Vietnam, and I saw all this nonsense about the black man has to ride in the back of the bus, and all this all this stuff was going on during my youth, and I looked at it, and this just did not look like the picture of America that had been represented to me in school, and I went through a very long period of mourning where I felt a sense of loss, as if a favorite uncle had just died or something. And I just wonder, did you go through that process? It sounds to me like you just came to a rude awakening where you're hit in the back of the head by a 2x4, and I wonder if, like me, you suffered with that sense of loss.
Yes, I would say absolutely. When it finally did sink in, it was an awakening. It had a effect upon my consciousness, and it made me want to get active, to get out there and make a difference, because I understood that the truth had been staring me at the face, the entire time, and I simply just couldn't face up to it. But given the film and how everything had tied together, it paints a very vivid portrait of the situation that this nation is facing. And it was quite awful. I remember I had a lot of gut-wrenching pain, and I remember I reached back out to my father, who pretty much indicated to me that you're going to have a really hard time with this, and you really can't talk to people about this. And it made me want to make a difference. It made me want to go out there, because I feel that all of this activism with We Are Change or Vets for Peace really brings meaning to my life on a whole other level than, say, going to work every day and punching my time card.
Well, that's a good question. Thank you, Gary, and it's good to have that question and get an answer. Jeff, oftentimes, more often than not, it's the young folks trying to convince the older family members to wake up and look at this stuff, and I find that interesting that your dad saw it for what it was and tried to wake you up with it, and you're the one who had the resistance. But you mentioned the Architects and Engineers film, the DVD, 9/11 Explosive Evidence, Experts Speak Out, and it has a 20-minute section that deals with that cognitive dissonance, and I think that's helpful to us activists as far as frustration and our attempts to wake other people up. And it is a process, this activism, and learning what works and what doesn't. But I think that the main thing is doing it, getting out there and showing up and doing something. And really happy that you're there with We Are Change and having a presence out there in Orlando now. I did want to ask you, what would you like to do in the future as far as reaching out to folks and making a difference?
Sure. Well, we're actually planning a meetup here on the campus of UCF. It appears that Joe Biden will be visiting town, and we're planning what will be called the Obama Game Show. So a lot of Obama supporters are going to be there, and we're going to be asking them a series of questions. And if they can answer 3 out of 5 of the questions correct, they'll get $100. So we'll be filming it, and we'll be having interviews, and basically it's going to be an information campaign to hand out DVDs on September 11th and expose the lies of the globalists.
Wow, that's a great idea. And what I was getting at earlier was how that fella did a trick on you all on the internet, renaming Loose Change as United Flight 93.
Yes, actually, that's actually they actually refer to that as sniping, is what it's actually called.
Sniping? I don't understand.
Oh, basically, they're hitting you with something when you wanted something completely different.
Well, that in guerrilla journalism or whatever, and that's what we can do, because we're up against the big money. They own the media, and the media, they pretty much had almost all of us snowed with 9/11, and they had me snookered until someone handed me a DVD, and then again, once you wake up, there's no going back. But I'm wondering, what can we do better? This game show idea sounds great. Now, is Joe Biden going to be speaking at the university?
Yes, I believe so. We will be posting the meetup at www.meetup.org/wearechange-Orlando. And we're hoping to get somebody to come who will be willing to film. I'll be conducting the interviews. And we're also planning another meetup next month at the City Council. We're going to be discussing about the dangers of water fluoridation.
That sounds great. And these issues are real, and they're getting away with it because the people don't know what's being done to us. But more and more people are waking up because of the work of folks like you, Jeff, and the gang in We Are Change. And this tool of the camera and the microphone and being able to get things up on YouTube is really made a difference in as far as our ability to fight back. And Larry, do you have any questions or comments for Jeff?
Jeff, I'd like to know what you would suggest to the listening audience that we do, wherever we are. Obviously, many of us are not in Orlando, Florida, but you have listeners all over the country and indeed all over the world. And before you answer that question, let me also give my kudos and appreciation and thanks to Gary, who's making this program possible. But back to my question, give us some suggestions as to what we can do all over the country and should do, whatever it might do, or whatever it might be. Tell us.
Right. Well, this question reminds me of what Martin Luther King Jr. said, and he talked about the difference between do-nothingism and how that leads to stand-stillism, and how everybody needs to do their part. Everybody needs to do something. Now, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do, whether it's, leaving a bumper sticker on a tram or joining wearechange.org, we have chapters all over the planet, not just here in the United States, and it's throughout most major cities. Everybody is capable of affecting change, even if it's just one person at a time. And I think emphasizing the fact that, every single person who we activate, every single person who we bring this information to is like a knife in the heart of our enemy. And I can't stress that enough, that I strongly believe that every person matters, and that together we can turn this around. It's not too late. I think that DVDs are a great way. I think that you can use artwork, YouTube videos. One of the things that we've done recently with our group are using the new barcode system that you scan using these smartphones, which would take you to various documentaries on YouTube.
And the folks would be able to watch them right on their phone?
Yes, as opposed to actually handing them a DVD. So we would be able to give them the information, and if they didn't have a smartphone, we could still get them the DVD or flyers or whatever we could give them.
So using the technology that they're selling us, and making money off of us buying their smartphones. Well, we'll use them to right back at them then, to wake folks up as to who's really running things out there.
And gentlemen, once again, I'm sorry to butt in and be nosy, but I do have to remind you, we are coming up close to the end of the time that I can allocate you. We've got about 3 minutes left in your segment. A couple quick notes. First of all, for Phil and Larry, and Jeff too, if you're interested, we will be having a round table in about an hour and a half from now, and I was wondering if you gentlemen might be willing to participate. The other item I would like to remind you of is, please, before we close your session, don't forget to do a little blatant self-promotion and make sure folks know what your websites are and where they can find out more about what you've been discussing.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot, Gary. Okay, why don't we start off with you, Larry, if you want to remind the folks where they can get to your work.
Okay, let me be very quick. You can get to my writings and work at www.blackactivist, that's Black Activist, WG. It stands for Writers Guild. blackactivistwg.org. Also at blackcommentator.com. Also at intrepidreport.com. Just go there. You can read my writings, what I'm up to, what I've been doing, etc., etc. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I hope you'll do that, and I thank our listening audience. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Larry. And Jeff, would you have any closing comments and information to share?
Sure. I just want to thank Larry and for having me on the show, and I just want to ask hard questions that the mainstream media refuses to ask. And I really want to shine light on the issue of 9/11 and where this country is really going. Other issues as well, such as the Fed and water fluoridation. I would encourage everybody in the Central Florida area to visit wearechange.org. You can click on the chapters button, and you can scroll down to Florida, and you can find our meetup site that way, or you could also visit the meetup.org/wearechange-Orlando to join up.
Yes, join up, get active, and that's meetup.com/wearechange-Orlando. And as far as I'm concerned, we're still trying to get the left to call for impeachment of the Democrat Obama for the very same war crimes we cited in the call for impeaching Bush. So I'm asking folks to please go to my recent article, Timeline to Veterans for Peace's Vote to Impeach Obama, 2009 through 2013. And there's good links in there. Please share it with others. And again, Timeline to Veterans for Peace's Vote to Impeach Obama, 2009 to 2013. And we're probably out of time, huh, Gary?
Yes, sir. And I tell you what, you timed that very close. Folks, I want to thank Jeff Biddleman, right? Beitelman. Jeff Beitelman, Larry Pinkney, Phil Restino for giving us this presentation. And will you guys be joining us for the roundtable?
I'll try. 1.5 hours.
I'll be placing the call. If you pick up, you're on. And I'm going to take us out with a little bit of music. We're running over time. Here we go.
UnitedWeStrike.com radio on the second Saturday of every month for our live International Radio Marathon.